Coming to paperback and e-readers, Isis Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Isis Dark Incubus at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere. Better get the go slow, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. The executives at Sony have a beef with actress Dakota Johnson. Now, actress Dakota Johnson recently angered Sony studio executives for allegedly dragging her box office flop, Madam Web, by making the statement that she understood why Madam Web bombed at the box office. And Sony's executives are upset at Dakota Johnson for allegedly dragging Madam Web and explaining why she felt the film was going to bomb at the box office, because they wanted her to allegedly take responsibility for the poor box office of Madam Web. Now, this whole position that Sony's executives are taking on Dakota Johnson has me scratching my head, because 1 week as they got upset at Dakota Johnson, the week before we had Sydney Sweeney, one of Dakota Johnson's co-stars in Madam Web, going and making lots of fun of the box office failure of Madam Web on Saturday Night Live in front of a live studio audience and millions of people who still watch television. I would think that Sony's executives would be a bit more upset at Sydney Sweeney than they would at Dakota Johnson, because Dakota Johnson basically was just making these statements in print media, not doing what Sydney Sweeney did, which was basically cooking this movie in front of a live television audience. And it has me scratching my head. I mean, why are you upset about an actress who worked on a project expressing their opinions about how bad that project is, when you have critics going out here and making the same criticisms about how terrible this project is? Now, when I listen to Dakota Johnson's statements as related to this Madam Web movie, I have to agree with a lot of what she's saying. Now, what she said was that she basically went out here and signed on this movie, and basically she wasn't expecting this movie to be this bad, because she came into it thinking that she was just going to do it as an experience, and she thought that she was going to do this film and get some experience. And a lot of actors and actresses, they'll sometimes take a project for the experience, and the whole thing is it's up to the executive producer and the director to make that experience one that's a positive one for all of the performers in that project. And sadly, that wasn't done for Dakota Johnson, because the executives at Sony had dollar signs in their eyes because they were mesmerized by the box office success of 2002 Spider-Man, the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and mesmerized by the success of one of their Spider-Man spin-offs without Spider-Man, the Venom movies. And what they wanted to do was go out and try to possibly do a cash grab movie where they hoped to grab lots of cash by making movies about Spider-Man supporting characters without any relationship to Spider-Man. And that's where this movie went on a bad road. It went on a bad road because of the Sony executives and the Sony directors and producers who wanted to go out here and make a Spider-Man movie without Spider-Man, and basically crafted a terrible script around the Madam Web character that wasn't true to the source material. Because if you ask many of the producers and Sony executives anything about the Madam Web character, in all of their interviews they go out and say, oh, we don't really care that much about the source material. We don't really care about telling the story based on the comics. And this is what they presented to Dakota Johnson as related to the Madam Web movie. But they're mad about the backlash that they have received. They're mad at the backlash they received from the public. And they're mad at Dakota Johnson, who said that sometimes in the industry you sign on to something and it's one thing, and as you're making it, it becomes a completely different thing, and you're like, what? And this is something that goes on in the entertainment industry all the time as related to screenplays. A actor will be given one script, like Halle Berry was given one script for Storm in X3, and as she was given that script for X3 that had her with a full lead role in it, what they did was when it was time to shoot, they basically created a whole bunch of pink pages, rewrote the entire script, and gave her a completely different script. And that went on to be where Halle Berry basically got cheated out of a role. And on another Halle Berry project, Halle Berry signed on to do the Catwoman movie that Michelle Pfeiffer passed on. And as she signed on for that movie, she thought she was going to be playing the infamous cat burglar that was a part of Batman comics. However, that film, like Madam Web, was a cash grab. And because it was a cash grab for people who had greenlit the original Michelle Pfeiffer movie, they wanted to get their money out. Halle Berry was stuck with a lemon of a project, not playing the infamous cat burglar from the DC Comics and love interest of Batman. No, she was playing a completely different character, a meek, mousy character known as Patience Phillips. And as she was playing the character of Patience Phillips, what happened was Halle Berry went on to star on one of her worst roles, one that led to her getting a Razzie, and that was all due to people behind the scenes who took something that was one thing and then made it into something completely different. And in the case of Halle Berry, she took the Razzie and called the film a piece of crap. And we have people at Sony who want to sit there and say, oh, Dakota Johnson is a rotten person for basically speaking out against a bad movie. And this is just her just speaking the truth about this film, because she also goes on and says it's hard to get movies made, and these big movies that get made start to happen with little ones. And the whole thing is all these films are done by committee, and that's another problem that I could agree with her as somebody who studied the entertainment industry. A lot of these films, they originally used to be films that were made with the vision of a singular director who was trusted by the executive producer to tell a great story, but nobody really trusts people because they want to be able to guarantee a large box office for these kind of movies, and they also want to guarantee a large merchandising block for themselves as related to things like action figures, video games, t-shirts, and other assorted merch. So a lot of these folks, they are upset that they couldn't turn this into a cash grab the way they used to for MCU movies, because their insecurities just got the better of them. And instead of trusting a director to put a vision on screen, what they wanted to do to guarantee they could get a box office hit is what they did was go out here and hire this extremely inexperienced female director, because this movie was all about girl power and girl bosses. And as they went out here and made this film about girl power and girl bosses, they didn't really think about finding an experienced director in science fiction and fantasy like Sally Richardson Whitfield, a woman who has basically done numerous sci-fi and fantasy TV shows, and this would have been a great springboard project for her had they given her a good screenplay. And hiring an experienced screenwriter with an experienced background in fantasy, maybe you could have made a Madam Web movie that stayed true to the comics about her mentoring maybe somebody like a Julia Carpenter, or maybe even somebody like a Jessica Drew. I mean, that could have stayed true to the spirit of what the original Spider-Man comics were. But this project was basically destined to be a mess, and Dakota Johnson basically is now feeling free to speak her mind, because she goes on to say films are made by a filmmaker and a team of artists around them. You can't make art based on numbers and algorithms. My feelings for a long time are that the audience is extremely smart, and executives have started to believe that they're not. And there's nothing, you can't disagree with her there, because that really shows in the way Madam Web was made. Basically, the audience can see the insecurity on the screen because the audience basically can see that this film was just basically made to be a cash grab. It was basically made to just take some Spider-Man related characters and try to see if you could make them popular and try to see if you could get over on them by making this movie all about these characters, because you thought you could get away with what you did with Venom and Morbius once, but you already saw that with Morbius you didn't get away with anything, and you still have people over at Sony, again, mad, but that people are getting onto them. And Dakota goes on to say audiences will be able to sniff out our BS. Even if our films are starting to be made with AI, humans aren't going to want to see these. So basically, Dakota Johnson is coming out cooking this movie, and not only cooking the movie, cooking these incompetent executives, and they are out here looking to just disrespect this woman who basically, again, had the backbone to tell the truth that this film, we all knew it was a cash grab. We all knew it was a desperate attempt for Sony to try to create some sort of success around these spin-off, these ancillary characters, and it was a way to try to make a fast dollar, but they want to make her out to be the bad guy when we clearly see that there is a double standard, because they weren't trying to make Sydney Sweeney a bad guy, even though Sydney Sweeney was out here on a live studio audience on a major television network cooking this movie in multiple sketches. And this whole statement, again, shows the hypocrisy of Sony, and I can see why Dakota Johnson basically fired her agent, and also why she wants nothing to do with superhero movies anymore. I mean, I can understand why she's basically taken a position that George Clooney wound up taking after Batman and Robin, because I remember with Batman and Robin, George Clooney thought, oh, he was just trying to make a superhero movie. He wanted to go and make a quality film. Unfortunately, what happened was Akiva Goldsman gave him a puerile script, and Joel Schumacher gave him just cartoonish direction, and as a result, we got one of the worst films in superhero history, and George Clooney wound up so disgusted by his whole experience on Batman and Robin that he swore to never do another live-action superhero movie. And what's really sad about George Clooney is he would have been the perfect Mr. Fantastic for a Fantastic Four movie. He had the alpha male presence of an adventurer. He had the charisma to basically carry that kind of movie. But due to the traumatic experience he had, he wound up leaving Batman and Robin, swearing to never do another superhero movie again. And Dakota Johnson, basically, she's not the greatest actress in the world. She's more of on the level of a Halle Berry as related to picking roles. But I will give her credit for one thing, in that she saw the disaster her career was about to become, and it's already had some bad stuff with 50 Shades of Grey. But she was smart enough to say, look, I need to go get me a new team, and I need to go get me a new team, because if my agent can't go out here and read a decent script, and my managers can't read a decent script to find out if it works, then I need to get rid of that team, because these people are giving me roles that are garbage. And she was smart enough to say, look, it's time for me to get rid of these people, something Halle Berry didn't do. And even after the Oscar, this is what led to Halle Berry's decline. And Dakota Johnson, smart enough to say, look, this film is garbage, it's trash, and cook this movie. And Sony executives may not want to hear that. They may not want to hear that horrible truth, but the audience was telling Sony's executives this on YouTube. I've watched multiple videos from multiple YouTubers, from guys like Yellow Flash to many other smaller channels, and they had been cooking this movie for a good year. And these Sony executives just don't want to hear the horrible truth. No, Madam Web was hot garbage. It was a terrible movie done by a committee looking to get a fast dollar. And if they don't even want to hear from a lead actor who's telling you that truth, then it shows us how bad things are in Hollywood, how these people just want to be told what they want to hear. And because they want to be told what they want to hear, there's no way to reason with them. And this is the main reason why we have so many bad movies like Madam Web being made, because the people in Hollywood refuse to hear anyone trying to talk sense into them, because they believe they can make a better movie. But we clearly see that they don't know how to make a better movie. No, all they know how to do is spend money, and they know how to spend lots of money, and they don't understand it doesn't matter how much money you spend, it's all about the quality of the product you produce. Because if you can't produce a quality product, it doesn't matter if you spend $80 million or $800 million. If you don't have a good vision for what you want to produce, what you're going to make is complete trash. And that's basically what Madam Web is, and that's what Dakota Johnson was trying to tell him. Because if actors are telling you something is wrong with the movie, then there's definitely something wrong with the movie. But what I'm really seeing from this whole situation with Dakota Johnson is that there's something with the process of making films in Hollywood. And in today's SJW Hollywood, what we have is a problem of these people in Hollywood wanting to have their yes men tell them what they want to hear. And as the yes men tell them what they want to hear, basically they want to be agreed with. And this is why they'll go out here and hire the most inexperienced people, have them go out here, write the story that they want, have them shoot the film that they want, and make a film that is nothing more than complete trash. And that's what Madam Web is. And that web was woven by just insecure executives who wanted to go out here and guarantee their success. And the irony is, as they went on this quest to guarantee their success, all they created was a guaranteed, certified box office failure. Now, if you want to pick up my stories featuring fun, fantastic heroines like the ones in the SJS Direct universe, you can find those heroines in the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, my vampire novel Eternal Night, and other books like my Black Sorority novel The Thetas. All of those books are available on Amazon.com, and they feature books featuring very rich, multi-dimensional heroines in compelling stories. And in those stories, you'll find far better material than what was presented in that absolutely dreadful Madam Web. And you can find all of those adventures of my heroines like Isis the Goddess Next Door, and the aspiring angel Esteem, and my Black Goth heroine Matilda Crowley, and Lilith Graves from Eternal Night. You can find all of those heroines on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find those heroines at other online booksellers like Smashwares, the iBookstore, Google Play, Walmart, and Barnes & Noble. And you can also find them at big box retailers like Walmart and Target online as well. There's a lot of great material from SJS Direct featuring great heroines. So you can find all those books at those online booksellers. And I'm also wanting to get a full comic out featuring the Goddess Next Door, and I can only do that with your help, because because I'm still trying to raise funds to do this comic, and I need donations from you guys to help get that done. So if you could drop a donation to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box, it'd be greatly appreciated and help me move forward to push for creating my next comic featuring the Goddess Next Door. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in digital format at Amazon.com, Google Play, Draft2Digital, and other digital booksellers, or pick up your paperback copy on May 24th. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Vampires Stalk the Darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.